This podcast is part of the Treksphere Network.
To find more Star Trek-related content, visit Treksphere.com.
As you know, this is the measure of an episode, where it is our continuing mission to explore what makes a Star Trek episode a proper Star Trek episode, a genuine Star Trek episode, and not just actually good Star Trek episode. I'm Paul.
And I'm Jonathan. And we do this using three criteria. The first is there sci-fi that is required within the plot? The second is that sci-fi presented in a unique and interesting way? And the third is there a moral or ethical dilemma presented for a character to face? I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Paul. And this week we watched The Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 16, When the Bough Breaks. I don't know what that means. A planet that was able to cloak itself for thousands of years suddenly reappears and reaches out to the Enterprise with an unusual request. Interestingly, the Hulu blurb, is the Hulu or the Prime blurb that basically just spoils the whole episode?
It's the same thing, yeah. They say the exact same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so spoilers for the next 10 seconds, for those of you who don't want to know, before the end of the episode. Wesley and several children from the Enterprise are kidnapped by a sterile civilization which hopes to use them to rebuild their race.
As I predicted in the last episode, it is basically spoils each reveal
Yeah.
of the episode.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that they don't mention is what's in the cold open. Are kidnapped by a sterile civilization from a hidden planet.
Right. They don't mention the fact that this is like a mythological place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is weird, like, because, I mean, first off, that's how the episode starts, and second off, that wasn't the direction of where I was going with, which is weird. Like, that planet has to have been vanished for millennia, and the way planets and science and gravity work, everyone knows there's a planet there, because planets generate mass, and mass generates gravity, and that gravity impacts all the other planets within that solar system.
Yeah, that's a good point. Although it could be a rogue planet. It's very possible. But that doesn't make sense because rogue planets are just kind of aimlessly traveling through the universe, and the Enterprise was on its way to somewhere. So I retract my explanation.
Well, right, and I mean, is based on our three criteria, not for the show, but for a planet.
We have our own for those too.
I don't think you can have a rogue planet. Like, it has to be called something else, because a planet, the three definitions are: it has to be spherical in shape, which obviously a rogue planet would have that. It has to orbit a sun, and it has to clear its path of any space debris.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know that it had to be orbiting something, because my understanding of a rogue planet is a planet that may perhaps have been orbiting its own sun, but was somehow knocked out of its orbit or freed from its orbit.
Right.
And so it's just traveling through space.
Yeah, no, I get that, but like, I wonder what that would be called then, because it's not meeting two of the three criteria. Like, Pluto doesn't meet one of the three criteria, so it's a dwarf planet.
It could be an asteroid at that point, I guess.
Right, a planet-sized asteroid. Yeah.
Yeah, but doesn't matter because it's not that, because it must be orbiting something. But you're right. It would seem that there would be ways to detect it that weren't visual.
Right. Like, we would know for sure that there was a planet there just because we couldn't see it. I mean, there's cloaking devices all over the place, so it should have been easier for them to find than for it to just reveal itself.
Yeah, even the way we would detect planets today.
Right.
Is more about its gravity and less about if we can see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the idea that I think Geordi is going through with somebody how the cloaking actually works, and it's mostly about visual.
Right.
It's like, well, it bends the light from around it, so you can't see it. So it looks like you're looking through it. It's like, well, that would be the most superficial way to look at a planet.
Right. So, like, we see black holes. Like,
yeah. Yeah. It's like, this is the 23rd century. Is that what it is? 24th century?
I think it's the 24th.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 23rd. But also, yeah, like along those lines, it's like Eddie Izzard makes this joke, but when he's talking about Noah's Ark, he's like talking to the fish. He's like, you need to get into the boat, and they're like, why? And he says, well, because the land will be flooded, and they're like, and.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
like we wouldn't be able to see it. So, like, we have so many sensors that can detect these things.
Yeah. We saw this coming from very far away. We know
Right.
what's going on. So the show starts off with them going to Aldea, or I can't remember why they're
Right.
Are they
That's-
going?
Yeah. I feel like that's an important part to the start of this episode. They were going to the system. They were going to the solar system for some other reason. Or they were going somewhere else completely, and they were passing through this solar system. And Riker, who was bullying kids in the hall, was called up to the bridge to take care of this. Or to see it.
By the way, so just quickly, just to talk about the very cold open scene where a little kid bumps into Riker, and Riker gives him the slit throat thing. Don't do this again, bud. You know what's going to happen.
Don't fall asleep.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So we are now confronted with this idea that kids, because this kid his name is Harry. He bumps into Riker.
Which was a horrible name to you. Like, you better hurry, Harry. Roger. Like,
exactly. And so the dad is like overly mean to him for bumping into Commander Riker. I was like, wow, what a kind of a dick dad. But he says, you have to go study your calculus.
yes.
The kid's like, I don't want to study calculus. It's too easy. Or something like that.
Right.
And we're confronted with this idea that, okay, so this happens a lot in the show where kids are studying calculus. And I guess calculus is the stand-in for the hardest math thing ever.
Right.
And things that only older high schooler students do or study. And so is it the idea that all kids now in the future are way smarter than kids as they are now? Or is it that all the kids on the Enterprise are special and they're super smart kids? And so that's why we see all of the Enterprise kids always studying calculus, is because we've got the best of the best kids on the ship.
It's a good question. What I actually took it to mean, obviously, that, well, no, not obviously. What I inferred it to mean was that we, in the future, we have streamlined and developed our academics in such a way that we are understanding them faster so we can get to the really complicated spatial math sooner. That's
Right, but there's steps to these things.
Right.
You can't, there's no way to learn violin or to learn math or to learn anything without it being sequential. And you have to give it time to kind of get used to it. There's concepts and stuff. I just don't know how you would streamline the itinerary. What do they call that? Syllabus. How do you compress and streamline the syllabus while still keeping in mind that little baby brains have to learn this stuff?
Right. So you actually could do that quite easily because kids learn algebra in kindergarten. It's just not presented in an algebraic way. They're given 7 + 3 = what? And 4 + what = 9, but they're given question marks or squares to fill in or things like that. But if you gave them that as an unknown variable, if you put X and they just had to solve for X, I mean, you're introducing algebra in kindergarten.
I mean, it's an interesting concept that
Right.
somehow in the future, kids are smarter.
And to go back to our episode from last week, they were talking about the pliability of her brain, and children have their brains being the most pliable between the ages of 4 and 9, which means that they understand patterns and routines and are able to pick up on those things faster in those ages than you can as you get older, and it kind of starts to solidify and stop being so pliable, for lack of a better word, around the mid-20s. So this is why in like video game challenges and competitions, game competitions, and just in general, the younger grades, the younger ages are better, even though the older ones have more experience.
Yeah, interesting. I guess. I mean, it makes the most sense if you know how to teach. If maybe we've optimized teaching in a certain way.
That's what I pictured. That they've optimized teaching in a way that you can get to the concepts of calculus at an earlier age.
All right, fair enough. Well, the kid doesn't want to do it.
Regardless, yep.
And I thought there were way more children on the Enterprise. I thought
10?
there were
than 6. Right.
Yeah, I thought it was a school's worth of children on the ship, but I was wrong about that. Maybe that changes as the show goes on. This is only the first season.
Well, and maybe they only wanted the kids who had a specific talent already available. You know, like there were the rest of the kids on there, they just hadn't figured out what their passion was, or they didn't have a brain for it, or whatever.
Right.
Because I feel like there was a classroom where some kids were taken, but only some of the kids were taken. I don't think the entire class was emptied out.
So, okay, then we get to the plot where they're going to the area where Aldea must be. I can't remember because they say something later. It's like, well, the breadcrumbs that were left for us, it's intended, you know.
Well, yeah, they were. Oh, maybe that's what it was. Maybe they were following this signature, you know, impulse or whatever.
I wish either of us had watched the episode.
I know.
We know the answer. It's not in the blurb, so we're kind of at a loss here.
Right. Energy readings. There we go. That's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
They were following energy readings into that solar system, and that's where Aldea was.
Right. So, and then the Aldeans magically reveal themselves to the Enterprise, and the Enterprise is awestruck because they couldn't believe it. I love Picard in this. He's like, "Can you guys believe it? We were just talking about them being mythological, and then they were standing right here." I liked it. And I just liked it. It was a fun. This is a really well written episode. This was a kind of a terrific episode, I have to say. It could be, you know, it's not perfect, but I rather enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit more of kind of the same scene where they were trying to figure out how to stall the Aldeans as it went on, but yeah.
So they magically beam aboard the Enterprise from the planet. And there's these two people. They say, hello. That was a bit unexpected. That was a bad Picard. My Picard is just suffering. I don't know why. But anyway, they come aboard. They say, please come down. We'd like to introduce ourselves, et cetera, et cetera. Blah, blah. We'll let you know when we're ready. And then they ask Deanna, what did you get from them? And I was actually satisfied with her role in this episode. She says something along the lines of, they're definitely hiding something, and they definitely want something from us, and they're afraid that this thing must be very important to us.
Well, right. It's something that we aren't willing to give. Yeah.
Right. And they hope that, yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, that's such a great thing that we could not intuit from them.
Correct.
We actually needed Deanna for this moment. She was well used in this, as opposed to they're hiding something and we don't know what.
Right.
Okay.
They seem pleased to see us. But what bugged me about this was Picard's reaction was very different from the Devil's Due, and it just seems like his reaction to these things is totally dependent on either what the script calls or how these people initially present themselves. You know, like
there's no skepticism at all.
It's a magical planet that appears out of nowhere. It's the legendary planet that appeared out of nowhere, and they magically beam onto his ship, and he's like, "Welcome! So glad you could make it."
Right. Well, Picard might know when he's beat. Right, he might be able to recognize, oh, these people are way more advanced than us. There's no sense in arguing with them. Let's see what happens.
Right. I mean, that definitely happened when they got the repulsor beam.
Right, which was really cool.
Yeah.
So it turns out that the Aldeans
just, like, swings and punches them. Sorry. So it turns out what?
Turns out the Aldeans want all the children. That they are infertile, and they're willing to do anything to get the children because they want to. They want to continue their race and their heritage, as they said. And upon asking for permission to do this, and of course Picard saying no, they steal the children from the ship, and all hell breaks loose. Everybody's running around.
Was so weird because yes, they looked human in nature, but they're not human. And really, they could have stolen any aliens, like Crusher said. Like there are other aliens or somebody said, I forget who it was, but there are alien races who don't care about their children as much as humans do. Like, go barter with them.
Right. And it seems unlikely that you would find a spacefaring race that would be willing to part with their children.
Yeah.
It just seems unlikely that would be something evolutionarily speaking that would happen. But anyway, so Picard has a conundrum, problem, a dilemma, as it were, that he can't fight them because then they'll just shut off and disappear behind their shield. And
right, he can't just shut down completely and say, no, we're not doing it. Right, because they're like we'll take them anyway.
Right. He has to negotiate with them. He has to stretch this out until they can figure out a way to beat them.
Right.
So he goes down to the planet. They have, once again, they have their teller scene over a meal, because that's what you do in Star Trek.
Yes.
You can't just have them doing something. It has to be a meal that they don't eat.
Right. Well, they prepare and then beam them away before anyone gets a chance to eat.
Yeah, I have to get out of here.
So just a side note about the grandfather of the musician child.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Did you see who that was?
He looked like, well, he's like the paragon of the cranky space station guy.
Well, he's the one who shared a cup of tea with Picard over the earthquakes and tremors at Devil's Due.
Yeah. He's the guy who is running the space station research facility.
Yep.
Who doesn't need Picard's help. I guess in that one he didn't need Picard's help.
Yeah.
But he's always cranky.
Yep. He's the one who always calls, who says, like, we need your help, or you came too late, or why are you here? Right. Yeah.
Yeah. No matter what it is, they're ungrateful that this giant starship and all its resources have shown up to try and assist in any way they can.
Right. There's always a problem, like, with them being there. Either they didn't want them there, or they showed up too late, or
they're hiding something.
Yeah.
They don't want them there. Yeah. It's always, they're never grateful.
So anyway, and I know you're not on this part yet, but I like that where he's like, well, that was lovely. Now play something happy. And she's like, but I don't feel happy. Like,
well, it's like, you will go to sleep, or I will put you to sleep.
Right. Yeah.
Like that kind of thing came to mind.
Oh yeah. You will sleep, or I'll give you something to sleep about. Wait.
Huh?
I'm sorry, I'm new at this parenting thing.
97 years old.
Right.
So
anyway, yeah.
They're negotiating for the children, but in the meantime, it's just a ploy, a stall tactic, as it were. And so there's this nice little kind of scene where Beverly goes down. She's like, and Picard negotiates as a thing. Look, Crusher, my doctor needs to see her son. That's part of the deal. The guy finally relents and says, fine, you can go see your kid. And so there's this nice little clandestine thing where I don't know if Wesley is actually on board with this. It's supposed to be clandestine because she clearly is handing him the scanner thing. It's like, don't, show this. Like, I'm trying, like, this is a secret. Like, they're communicating. She's supposed to be communicating secret. And he just takes it like, huh, what's this? Huh, why are you giving me the scanner?
Right.
What was the scanner for? But he kind of gets it, and he goes to scan. I liked that whole sequence.
Yeah, and I liked the swing of his arm behind Duana, like as he's scanning her. Like,
I wanted her to start to turn around.
Yeah,
and he kind of he
leans
also turns
the
around.
Door frame.
Yeah. It wasn't magnificently blocked.
No.
It could have been done a little bit more cleverly, but I liked the concept.
Yeah.
I thought the concept was cool.
Well, and just the fact that they're stealing children, like cloning is a thing that happened on Star Trek Enterprise. And there have been episodes, I mean, they deal with gestational tubes for other alien races where the children are born externally. And it just, why was this not offered as an option?
Yeah, I know the conceit is supposed to be that this race has become so complacent in their need for this, or in their, I guess, what would you call it? I guess their need for this computer system. What do they call it? The comforter? The
custodian.
Custodian. That they have unlearned how to exist by themselves.
Right.
And so that's the conceit, but it does seem unlikely that a race as advanced, or who has this as advanced technology, that where they can ask for anything and it seems to be able to deliver it to them, that they wouldn't be able to, even just by asking the question, is there anything wrong with this, or is there something wrong with the technology that's hurting us? It would seem like that question would come up and addressed. That, again, it's sort of this weird monoculture society where it's a whole planet, I'm gathering. It's not just these 10 people that live on this planet, right? It's an entire planet full of millions, perhaps billions of people that are having this problem. So the idea that you could crowdsource the problem, someone's going to come up with the idea that, oh, maybe it's our power source. The janitor's going to stumble into the power source room and be like, maybe this is the problem.
Right. I feel like it also could be a precursor or a progenitor to the Pockleds based on what you had mentioned about them, where they have this technology taking care of them, but they don't know how it works.
Right.
And
They're sort of children.
yeah, yeah. And so and seeing this kind of makes that, not only more plausible, but this presents it in a more realistic way where the technology got to be so advanced. I mean, kind of like the, what's it called? The Axia, I think is what it was called, from WALL-E, where everybody just, they had the technology and the information is there to learn it, but nobody bothered because it's taking care of them. And so now they've forgotten where it is and they've forgotten how to fix it and all that sort of thing. And so they're just using it without the Terminator even talks. I'm using so many pop culture references. Terminator even talks about that when they're interrogating the guy when he time travels back, and they're asking him about how it works, and he's like, I don't know. Do you understand how your car engine works? But you use it to go get places, so kind of the same thing.
Yeah. A dependency based on complacency.
Right.
Or based from complacency. It's I guess it's a tale of
Cautionary tale.
Cautionary tale. Thank you.
Well, yeah, and I really did like that moment with Duana as well, where he's like asking the questions about how you fix the computer, and she's like, "Oh, you like to ask questions."
Well, Wesley has a point. Something is going to break down,
right?
Like something like you don't accidentally trip and fall onto a whatever, and that breaks. Who fixes it?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Well, I loved that she didn't understand the questions. He's like, "So who fixes this?" She's like, "Fixes it."
And let's just brush over the fact we look identical,
right?
But anyway,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the other part of it too. I guess they're just wanting them to learn their culture because genetically we have no idea if they're compatible, and all of the children that they just pulled down are essentially human. I mean, maybe there's a Betazoid child there, but they all look the same. And so it just seems strange that they're not worried about their genetic continuation at all, just their culture.
Well, and that's a weird thing is that they had the wherewithal to know that their problem was genetic because they say this is genetic. It's not contagious.
Right.
They're going to be fine. They had the wherewithal to know that, but they didn't have the wherewithal to know that they were suffering from some sort of disease or something like that, some sort of chromosomal disease. They actually Beverly says it's a chromosomal disease. So the conceit here, the story is that they've grown too complacent from being too dependent upon technology. We get it, but it's a little too glib for me.
Right.
I feel like there should be a little bit more in the weeds of what's happening. Like there should be actually a little bit more like, what are that race called that Geordi has to help fix the
Packleds.
Yeah, the Packleds. It's going to be a little bit more, they're a little bit dumber. They're kind of dum-dums, maybe. Because they don't seem stupid. They just seem like nobody has to worry about anything.
Well, yeah, but it seemed like they knew how to use the technology. It's like taking
just by
somebody
talking to it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but like how to beam up to the ship and then beam back. Like they had the little armband that they knew how to use. It'd be like taking somebody from 100 years ago and bringing them to now and showing them how an iPhone works. Like,
yeah,
I've been using it long enough that I can use it seamlessly. But that doesn't mean I know how to build one.
Right. It's a little bit like the crow that knows he gets a treat if he brings the thing and hits the button.
Right.
It's like he knows that's what happens. That's the result I can expect from this button, but having no idea how it actually works.
Yeah.
No concept of it. But yeah, I just felt I wanted a little bit more exploration of the society itself and not just the kid thing. Because as you said, the kid thing kind of wears thin in the middle. A little bit,
right?
Just a little. It's more of the same kind of scene over and over again.
Yeah, like I want to go home. Well, you can't.
Right.
And also, we can't stop the negotiations. So how are we going to fix this? Like there was a little bit too much wheel spinning in the middle, and I think it's kind of because of the same problem of last week's episode. There's no B plot to this episode.
You're right. I mean, I guess there kind of is with the Harry kid. A little bit.
I mean, that's a stretch, but okay.
Yeah. I will say, so there's a scene. This may be just sort of them still working out the kinks in being a new show. Although this is episode 16. Where Crusher is coming.
Season. Yeah. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
Crusher is coming in to the bridge to inform Picard of what the results of her scan were when she had Wesley scan the lady. And she's walking up to where she's supposed to be, and you can see her clearly look down to find her mark.
Oh,
It's
no.
amazing. That's great.
You caught that at 1.8 speed? Nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's not really a B plot except for Harry, which is not a B plot.
It is not. It is not.
Although they do start the episode and end the episode.
They do bookend it, yeah, which is nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was such a cheesy end cap at the end.
It's not good. It's good.
Yeah.
We're not there yet. We're not
all
there
right.
yet. There's one
All
more
right.
thing I want to talk about.
Okay. I have a few things that
Okay.
just a couple quick side notes. Behind the scenes, this story was created with the idea of pointing out that there actually were families on the Enterprise. And I did kind of like that, where they did have Crusher's moment where she was telling everybody, like, yeah, this sucks, but it's kind of what you signed up for. So,
Right.
like, we need to figure this out. But in the meantime, like, stop complaining.
And I liked the Aldeans' response to, these are our family, our children. You can't just take them. He's like, why? You guys can make new ones.
Right? Yeah.
I love that. I love that would be their retort. It's like, why are you guys complaining about this? You can make as many as you want.
But also, like, to that point and to my point earlier, like, just give them gallons of jizz and buckets of eggs and just be like, here you go. Here's your
Problem
primordial
solved.
soup. Right.
Yeah. He has 2 buckets. He slams them down on the floor. Here.
Like they're sloshing around. I'd clean that mess up. There's like 30 lives right there.
Right.
And then also this was the first episode. I mean, obviously it's only halfway through the first season, so that shouldn't come as too much of a surprise, but it's the first episode to start inside the ship and not an outside shot of the Enterprise.
Well, they clearly didn't have time.
Right.
Because they had a lot of stuff to do in this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, they just hit the ground running. They were like, no establishing shots.
Right.
And then the next episode, like there's actually longer than a season before the next episode comes up where it starts in the Enterprise.
Interesting.
And then you're probably not going to touch on these two things, but like the fact that everyone has cameras in their living rooms and everybody's okay with that. Apparently nobody's creeped out. Nobody.
Oh, you mean on Aldea?
Yeah.
Where you can ask the computer, where is this person? It just shows a picture of them.
Right. Of what they're currently doing. Like, it's not just a picture of them. It's not like, no.
It's a video.
Thank you,
Yeah.
custodian. Yes, that's who I'm looking for. Where are they?
What are they doing right now? Yeah, it's very creepy. I get the impression that I feel like in hundreds of years, maybe less than that, who knows, that there won't be cameras. It will be this kind of thing where you can check in on somebody that isn't from a singular frame of reference.
Right? Yeah. I mean, that's definitely the futuristic impression because obviously the question gets asked all the time. Like, well, where is the camera for that?
I don't think there are cameras. I
Right.
think it's just sensors.
Right.
It's just you can kind of go into any room and it's actually that room. It's not a photographic representation, that kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
not a singular, like 2-dimensional something or other.
Right. Yeah. No.
I think it's which is creepy but also amazingly cool at the same time.
Yeah. And then just the last thing, because I think we're already past it, where Picard yells at Data, things are only impossible until they're not.
Yes, I guess that's true.
Right. Well, yeah, Data makes a face that basically says exactly that. He's like, okay.
And I wonder if that's Brent Spiner editorializing.
Right.
But a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I will say that amazing set piece, moving set piece of the power source on the planet. It's not even a painting. What do they call that? A matte painting.
Right.
That's stationary, static. It's moving and it looks huge because they superimpose like the door when the door opens and the people walk in. There's this giant spinning thing.
They didn't
It's
superimpose.
amazing. Huh?
They didn't superimpose.
Well, I mean, obviously it's not a real room. That was
a real room. Yes.
Was there actually this giant spinning thing in there?
There was
too?
not a giant spinning thing in there too. It was forced perspective. That's how it was done.
Oh, okay. What I'm saying is that it looked legitimate. It looked like it was a giant room.
Yeah, that was
amazing.
That was absolutely in camera movie magic, which was very cool. Like because it does it by using a 2-dimensional viewing screen of a 3-dimensional object, you can do that sort of forced perspective, which does look great, and it gives it that sense of size that you just don't.
It tricks our brains.
Yeah, it tricks our brains, and it because it's actually there, it just looks more real than a superimposed or a CGI image.
Right. Yeah, and it actually looks better. It looks better than some of the stuff in the latter seasons, even season 7.
Yeah.
Because of what it was, because of how they did it, I guess.
Right.
Because you're saying it was a forced perspective.
Well, yeah, it's like the warp core chambers from that Deanna Troi investigative episode, where they actually built those halls. You know, they extended them past, and you know, and you can kind of see that digital mat, but they were in those rooms, and it looks massive because it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I wish the whole show looked like that.
Right.
But it doesn't, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, well, and even Discovery, like it does look like that, but so much of it is computer generated that it just doesn't have that same level of
grit.
Yeah.
There's a grit to it. Yeah. Okay, I have an ending, an alternate ending.
Okay.
Because so let me just give you a sum up of what I think about this episode.
Okay.
So I felt like it wrapped up a little too hastily. You know, they rescue the children and also heal all of the Aldeans.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're able to, everybody gets what they want, essentially. And I felt like it was a terrific episode. I felt like the writing was quite good. It wasn't too science fiction-y, you know. Mm-hmm. There was actually science fiction in it. I felt like, though, it lacked teeth. It didn't seem like, considering what was at stake for the Aldeans, considering what was at stake for the humans, it just wasn't a lot of, I don't know, there wasn't a lot of like really edgy stuff in there. Like if the real reaction is what would happen.
Right.
There'd be a rogue parent who went down there, or, you know, went crazy and wanted to like take Picard hostage because he said we need to use our all of our might and get our kids back. Right. There wasn't that emotional aspect of it, except that they were sad.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. There wasn't the emotional power that comes with losing a child. Right.
Yeah. And it was very composed. Mm-hmm. Everyone was too composed.
Yeah, a little too sterile. Right.
Yeah, exactly. I felt like, here's how to change that.
Okay.
Here's how we change that. So Picard says, we will not leave until we have our children back.
Right.
Like, we were not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens for decades. Picard is there with the Enterprise, keeping good on his word. If not decades, then at least years. Right? And since time doesn't matter in Star Trek, everything resets. It doesn't matter how long they're out there. Right? So, but they're out there for years. And the episode, maybe a 2-parter, could be a 2-parter.
Why not? Everything else is.
Yeah, or should be. We jump into the episode. Every act break is 5 years.
Actually, the to be continued is where the break happens. So, you know, he says, we are not leaving until, you know, and then it's to be continued. And then we come back and it's like been 20 years.
And it cuts in on Picard having a drink. And Riker's like, sir, it's your shift duty. You need to come to the bridge. He's like, never make promises, number one.
Just blanket statement.
They'll only ruin your life.
And
now I'm Cockney.
Okay, did you have more to that, or
no? But just
okay.
Yeah, let's make it. Let's give it some teeth.
Yeah,
you know?
and I think that hits the nail on the head as to how this could have been an amazing single plot episode, because like it does get drawn out a little bit, and I think that's ultimately because there is no B plot. They hadn't found that magic yet. But I think also, if you really think about what is at stake for both of these planets, you could have done a lot more.
Right. Yes.
You absolutely could have had the parents overreacting and trying to force the planet to give them their children, and then have them, you know, use that repulsor beam and send them 3 days away at warp 9, and have the parents like really freak out and have Picard have to like try to talk them down, kind of saying like, you know, this is why we have to be gentle about this, because they have all the cards. They could blast us across the galaxy, and we would not be able to make it back, as they said before. Our children, our grandparents, and have them do something on the planet that's even more at stake, because they're right. Like, without children, they are going to die.
Yeah, I mean, I can't blame the Aldeans for what they did.
No, not at all. Right.
You can't blame them. I mean, it's not great and maybe a bit hasty.
Right.
I guess. It's like, well, we can't have children. Well, we should start stealing them immediately.
Right.
Right. But yeah, I felt like there is a lot you could do to make this a little bit more emotionally realistic. Mm-hmm. It just felt a little too, as you said, sterile. It's the perfect word.
Yeah.
Perfect word.
And I think a large part of that is just because Gene Roddenberry was still very actively at the helm, and he didn't want to do many dark episodes, and he kind of likes it resetting at the end.
He likes it happy.
Yeah,
likes it happy
very much. Yeah. So,
but I give this full marks. Definitely a proper Star Trek episode. Definitely, I liked the episode, so I'm a yes.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Yes. Yeah. I think you enjoyed the episode more than I did, but that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. Yeah.
No, it's just strange.
No.
Usually you like Star Trek, and I don't.
Right? Yeah. I don't know why either of us are doing this podcast, to be honest. Not to be honest, just a joke. I am, we're now almost 100 episodes into this, and I have thoroughly enjoyed it.
Me too.
Yeah, and so listeners, if you guys are enjoying this too, leave us a comment. As Paul says, just throw down 5 stars. If you loved it, 5 stars means it's great. If you hated it, 5 stars means it's terrible. We can, put in your thoughts in the comments, but give it 5 stars wherever you are.
Yeah, it really helps us out regardless, because we need more people to listen to the episode. I wish there was a name for the people who listened to this episode. Measure of an Episodians. Does that work?
Yeah, I know. We need to figure it out.
We'll work on it. But for now, we're all a measure of an Episodians, and we need more like us. So go leave a comment. It really helps us out, get the show out.
Who's out there? Who's listening? What are your thoughts on this? Like,
are we begging for attention again?
I mean, yes, to a certain extent, but for me, it's less about, yes, I want our listenership to grow. And if you have friends who you think would enjoy this, please share it with them. But more like, for those of you who are listening, who are you? Like, we have a very small number who are consistently listening, and that number does seem to be growing each week, but none of you are saying anything. Like, are you enjoying it? Are you not enjoying it? Is it a different listener every week? Like, that's what I want to know. Like, who's out there listening to this, and are you listening because you're a masochist, or are you listening because you like what we have to say? Do you wish that we talked about stuff beyond Star Trek?
Absolutely. Are you from Treksphere? Did you make your way over from Treksphere, our network, or did you just randomly happen upon us? Are you OG listeners from the first episode? We want to know.
Yeah. Did you find us through YouTube? Right. Yeah. Just let us know.
Yeah. Let us know.
All right. Well,
Should we see what we're watching next?
Let's find out.
The Deep Space Nine episode. No. The Deep Space. No. Star Trek. The Deep Space Nine. Season 4, Episode 1. Season 4, Episode 2. At least that's what this one says. Oh, wait. Is it the same episode? Is it one episode? The Way of the Warrior, Parts 1 and 2. The Promenade swarms with Klingons. However, the warriors aren't their antagonistic selves. Selves is a word? Yeah, I guess it is. Martok tells Sisko they've come to fight the Dominion. It's just these unrelated sentences.
Right. It's the horoscope of Deep Space Nine. I've got a much better explanation for it on Hulu. The blurb says, when the Klingon Empire ends its peace treaty with the Federation, Sisko must help Klingon Starfleet officer Worf decide where his loyalties lie. Oh, Worf is in this episode.
Oh. I mean, after that, do we need to watch the episode?
Right. I wonder if this is his introduction or if it's a guest star.
Well, we'll see. Yeah. Maybe the whole Enterprise crew is on there.
Right? Maybe it's Thomas Riker this time as Picard.
We don't know. Maybe he's back. Yeah. When is Thomas Riker? Did we watched that episode where he's in it and he gets sent to a labor camp?
Yeah.
Was that before this episode or after?
It must have been before, because Worf does eventually join DS9 and he wasn't on that episode.
Oh, good call. Good call. So this could be where we get to see Thomas Riker again. But we know that we don't.
Yeah. Yep. I wonder if
Okay.
there was any other crew. Anyway, yeah.
No, there wasn't.
Okay.
It was only Thomas Riker. I have no idea what you were going to say or
Right.
what you won. I felt the need to answer your question.
I appreciate that. All right.
Let's go watch it. Oh, sorry. I've been Paul.
I've been Jonathan.
No, you have to say it because I did the last. No, do you?
Yeah, I say it.
No. I've been Paul,
I've been Jonathan.
and this has been The Measure of an Episode.
But you already knew that.